But I think it's kind of weird for us, not just you and me, but weird as people that we actively look at, I want to do this very specific thing. I want this to become my daily habit. Good for you, but at the same time, I think that's such a, like you were saying, it's such an inorganic thing that happens. You're actively looking for that to be a part of your personality so you seem more interesting, maybe? I don't know. I don't know why people do that. Hello!
Hey, what's up, everybody?
How we doing today? Welcome back to Almost Cool. How are you, Marty?
Oh, I'm doing good.
Hell.
And you forgot the, hey, he's over there. I'm over here.
Beep. Hey, Marty. Jordan over here. Oh, wait, hold on. Fuck that. Beep. Hey. Welcome back to Almost Cool. I'm Jordan. That's Marty over there.
I'm Marty. Absolutely. Oh, fuck. We cannot do this right. Oh, it's all good, though. How you
I'm
doing, man?
okay. I think we should keep that in. Let's.
Yeah. That's a funny little thing.
Funny little doodad.
We're still getting the
Oh
kinks
my
out of this
God.
worked out. We're good.
Welcome
everybody.
Welcome to take 2 of our episode this week, because young homie Jordan over here kind of screwed the pooch yesterday, and
Hey, it was a mutual effort. Don't beat yourself up.
hey,
Well, remember the first time I messed up? Remember how we did a mad episode because I came
you were
back
so
and I was
pissed.
so angry with
You were
myself.
I think it's so funny every time we've tried recording an episode on patience twice, and it's fucked up. Whether or not because we don't like it ourselves or something bad happens. And so we just have to be patient.
Oh gosh, it relates so heavy to especially that last
God,
conversation.
That last like 20 minutes of that. Sorry, everybody. You missed out on like a good solid talk. That last 20 minutes of that episode was...
Hey, we'll get it again. There's no reason. We'll revisit.
Trying to build it up so people can get disappointed later, but still listen.
Guys, I get you. Okay.
Oh man. Anyway, so today we are back and we're talking about habits, both good and bad. And when Martin first said, "Hey, let's talk about habits. What do you think about that?" I'm like, "Oh fuck yeah!" Immediately, my mind went to social habits and social behaviors that I do, both good and bad. So that was like my kind of thought process today. Marty, what were your initial thoughts whenever you came up with this brain idea?
I got some. I got some good and bad habits. I would say, I guess social habits would be a really good one for me to talk about today. But yeah, it's weird because when I said habits, I was thinking of like initially what are the good and bad habits, and all I could think of was I was like, I try to make my bed every morning and I brush my teeth twice a day.
Some bad habits.
And like exactly, like I just ran in these ideas of like what like that doesn't seem very interesting. And so you texted me and were like, I just immediately think of social habits. I was like, thank God. I can okay, we can expand, we can do this. But yeah, I don't know. I have some pretty bad habits that I guess I deem them as bad, but I don't know if they were technically
Define
bad.
What makes you think they're bad?
I guess it's something I say, since habits are so personal, it's stuff I'm aware of that I do, but since it's like a habit, it's hard to catch them, like because it comes so natural that it's something that when it happens and I can like channel it, like, I'm aware of that was a thing. Let's do one like my oral fixation, like because I started smoking, a bad habit from that is like chewing on pins or just putting like random things in your mouth and stuff. And I don't realize that it's happening until Like, and then so I'm like, oh, that shit's been in my mouth. It's like, oh, I shouldn't put, that's
Yeah.
gross. Like, um, things like, I don't know. I guess that's where my mind was at. I can't really, uh,
It's bad to you.
I don't, yeah.
So I think that's an interesting little thing, is just to define what makes good and bad. Um, so bad for me, right? So all of the things I've written down today, I was telling Martin this right before we started recording, that I kind of did like a flip of the coin list where um, in some aspects this habit could be good, in some aspects it could be bad, depending on what situation I'm using it in, how much I'm using it, how much I'm or doing it rather. And I think for it to be a bad habit for me, not speaking for you or anybody else,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's just my overall well-being of what I'm doing or how I'm feeling. So, for example, like a personal habit of mine is I always try and be honest with myself. I don't like lying to myself. I don't like, kind of building myself up in my head, except for, to try and hype myself up. But for the
Yeah, for like, yeah, the good
yeah,
reasons.
like for the most part, I like to be aware of what I can and can't do. But as I do that, that habit becomes bad because then I get frustrated with the things that I can't do or the things I can do. So I think about drums all the time whenever this comes up, is that, oh, I think I'm a solid drummer, but when I see videos and or live people doing stuff that just is so far and away better than what I can do, it makes me just, I'm like, oh, I can't do that. I wonder why I can't do that. I know what I know why I can't do it because I haven't practiced that. But like, I just get so frustrated in my own ability to do something when I see someone else succeeding at it, when that's what I want to be doing. Like, I want to have that skill set, but I don't.
Mm-hmm.
And I get frustrated with myself before I get frustrated before I get psyched up to do it, to learn it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Okay, so I was thinking that's like that kind of like resembles that
Mm-hmm.
envious when we were talking about that in our jealousy episode. I thought I okay, with that I was going to ask you, do you think, because you were talking about habits, do you think that behavior or that scenario, you have done it so many times, or you have felt that way about something that many times, where whenever you see something that's immediately better than you in the drums, you instantly click into the act, like, or not acting like that, but like thinking about those things, like instead of like it's your first instinct when you see something like that, it's like, damn, they're better than me.
Honestly,
Or
no.
is it like, oh wow, that's really impressive, and then it kind
Yeah,
of like
yeah.
sets in,
It's
that's it.
always my
Okay.
state of like initial awe that I'm like, oh my God, this person is so good. Like, that's awesome. Like I get so happy in the moment, and then I think about it later on. I'm like, God, I can't. Why can't I do that? Especially when I try it for the first time, and I just completely screw it up. And I'm like, well, I get frustrated and end up throwing my sticks across the room. No, I don't really do that, but mentally, that's what I want to do, is just throw them into the wall like a spear. But
Hmm.
but
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
usually the
yeah. Because
following of me being so enthralled by what's happening to me being disappointed in my own ability.
Yeah. That's I do that with like people watching people play piano all the time. I'm with you. I think I'm a solid pianist. Like, I could probably go to a hotel, ask to play in their lobby for money, and be, hold my
Oh yeah.
own. It'd be great. But as soon as I watch someone, if you just type in improv cocktail
Hmm.
piano, you'll see someone just, I mean, this old guy that's been playing for 50 years. You're like, never. In my head, I will probably never reach
Right.
that. And
Right. Oh my
uh,
God.
but that's, I don't know. I think a lot of those kind of things that we think about, especially, and it's not, I don't want to say that what your thought was a negative
Hmm.
thing. But it's funny when you get in like a routine of thinking about things like that, how natural it comes to you. And I think that is like a lot with like a negative mindset, or like when you're being a negative person, the more you are waking up and you're making or you're thinking about the negative side of things, it's just the easier it gets and the easier and easier. And so your natural instincts and your natural ways of reacting to situations ends up being negative. And I'm like, man, I've caught myself doing that. And we you know, kind of with people, initially, like I think it's a good habit and a bad habit. I think, okay, this is where this is going to bounce back and forth. I don't think, or this is a habit I have, and I don't know if it's good or bad, but I don't feel like I truly believe anyone with what they tell me at first. And hear me out. And I don't mean friends. I don't mean people that are close to me. I mean, like, if I was to meet you out randomly or on a first date or something like that, it's not that I don't, and this is like one of those social habits that it's not that I won't believe you. It's just like there's something in me to being like, okay, that's like 90% true or something. Like there's like maybe you, okay, you know when you're watching Letterkenny, he goes, "You want to take about 20% off that, bud?" You know, it's kind of like that. Like I know everything because it's a first date, or you know, you're just now meeting someone. It's like, you know, you're hypened and you're like, oh, I want this person to, like, you know, I want to vibe with this person, so you maybe exaggerate a few things here and there, and that's where I think it's good. It's because it takes, you don't believe everything people say, and I think that's great. I think that's a great thing to take away. But I think flip of the coin, and on the bad side, it's like that's developing a trust issue in me. That's
You're
like,
not wrong. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
That's like, I think it's initially like, I can't feel like I actually connected with someone even when we did, because I still have a piece of me in my mind that I'm like, man, like all of that wasn't true, or like, you know, he lied about something or she lied about something. Maybe not even lied, just in my head it's like something was like false. Like, I know it sounds weird, but I used to do this all the time in conversations, especially if I knew I wasn't going to meet someone. I think it's fun to just like say some random things or exaggerate some situations, and, you know, makes the story better. And as a you know, as a comedian or an aspiring comedian, you know, it's fun to be in bars like that and kind of falsify stories for the comedic, you know, relief. But I know in social situations you shouldn't be that way, and so because I act that way, I think other people might.
That's exactly what I was just going to ask, is because you do it, do you think that everyone else is also putting up that just exaggeration filter on everything that they say?
Yeah. And and it's weird because, sorry, I need to stop clicking my pen.
What was that?
It's weird because if I end up doing something or I'm acting a certain way, I'm not unique. I'm not I feel like I'm not normal in the sense of like, oh, I'm normal, but, you know, I'm just like an everyday guy. So I feel like I'm amongst the mass of just a general population. And that generalization is, you know, I know everyone in this world is completely different, but I saw a meme once that says we all accidentally live the same life, and it was like a kid who had anxiety about his mom going to get something in the grocery store and them standing at the register. And he's like, oh god, like at some point, some way, something like that has happened to everybody, and it's like, oh no,
just standing awkwardly while the line builds up behind you because your mom forgot to get chicken thighs.
Exactly. And you're like, man, it's time to pay, and she ain't back yet. I ain't got the money.
Sorry, lady, I'm 11.
Here,
What's up?
But I get in this sorry, I kind of
no, you're totally fine. I kind of, so this isn't like the exact same thing as what you were just saying, but I also have I have initial judgments about people, and this is something we've talked about like just last week in the judgment episode, where I try my best to include everyone, and if I don't really, you know, like you were saying, I don't believe everything everyone says, but I try and give them the benefit of the doubt, even if it goes against my better, you know, just intuition. And so I try and bring people into a group. And two things, we said this before, I am terrible at introducing friends to different friend groups. I'm really bad at it. I'm so bad at it. I know who I am. But Like, and so I'll invite someone to this group, and the vibe just completely goes off, and then they start saying things like those initial chirps you hear in the back of your brain when you first start talking to them. They get even louder as you invite them around other people, and then I feel like a dick because I invite, like, I kind of, was the catalyst for messing up the whole evening because I invited this person just because I wanted them to feel included, even though I knew they would not get along with this particular group. I was just like, hey, come out, you never know. Haha. Like, that's how I am. I never know how I'm going to feel about a group. And
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess that's good because you're making a habit of not having expectations.
yeah, you're
know?
not wrong. But at the same time,
Like, I guess the flip of the
but at
coin.
the same time, I know those expectations. Like, I'm not ignorant enough.
Yeah, you're not like, what? I don't know what's gonna happen. Like,
like I know who these people are, especially if they're like a known friend group. Like, I know how these people act around people.
yeah,
And not all the time. I don't just blindly, yeah, sure, come along, hell yeah. Like, I don't do that all. I had to bring out Goofy for that one, but yup. But
man, that's really good. You need to.
fun fact: whenever I'm in the car by myself, I sing along to every song on the stereo as Goofy for at least 20 minutes. Like, I called you one night.
Yeah, you did.
I called you one night and was like, bruh, I've been singing like I've been singing Green Day and the Goofy voice just to make it sound even dumber. Like,
Oh gosh, yeah. I watched. Someone showed me a video of
the Evanescence song.
"Wake Me Up Inside."
Can't wake up. Yeah. It's one of my favorite videos of all time.
It's so
It's so
good.
fucking great. But okay,
Oh.
back on track. It's like,
If y'all haven't watched it, y'all
oh
gotta go.
Lord, yeah. Please pause and go watch that as soon as possible. But I know how these people react around people, and also oftentimes I also know they're not the most inviting people to be around anyway. Like, I had to work to be a part of this group. Like, I had to prove myself that I'm.
You put in the hours.
I put in the grind, baby. But like, and then I say, hey, can my friend come along? And they're like, okay, sure. And then it just does not mix well. And it's because of my good intentions, but just ignoring the fact that, like, I know y'all have nothing in common, but hey, you want to hang out tonight? I want to hang out with you, but I also want to hang out with them. So let's just throw in chemicals in a vat and see what happens,
And see it.
Sometimes it's awful. Sometimes it's awful.
Yeah, that's it. But I don't know. I mean, like, yeah, I will say that's if you're negating the social aspect of, like, if these people get along. But I don't know. That's good to be inclusive because I feel that way too. I definitely don't want to invite someone to a group of people that I know they won't get along. But I'm so I want people to feel involved,
Yeah.
and I guess it's because, like in high school, I was such a floater.
Yeah.
I had my best friends, but they didn't go to my school, and they I would go home after school and hang out with them. But in my actual high school, I was friends with everyone. Like, I was friends with everybody. Everyone, like, not everyone knew. I guess it was a small school, so everyone did know me technically. But I just kind of like floated. Like, I ate lunch with the same people, but like, in classes, I was kind of just friends with whoever I was sitting around.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I'm not going to say, I don't want to go as far as saying I was never understood. I think that's a little far-fetched. But I will say, like, I because of the way I acted, and I think I explained this before, just the way I kind of needed to be liked in a certain way with multiple groups of people. With that, because I was so trying to be inclusive in all these different groups, it kind of made me feel like this weird. Oh, how do I say this? It's like, it makes me feel like how do I say this? Okay.
the mental processes at
like
work.
yeah, the mental process is happening right now. I wrote a bullet point, but that's all I wrote, so I'm just like, all right, let's go, let's dive into it. So I formed a habit of feeling like I maybe like was friends with people, but not as much as like they didn't actually know me,
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
that makes sense. They knew like we had surface level
Mm-hmm.
friendship, and I think I did that for so long that I taught myself that and like told myself that that's just how friendships work. And I think I got so, and this is all kind of subconscious.
Yeah.
I don't really I haven't made this point in my head, um, but I extended that into my later life, and that's why I feel like these little things that I kind of taught myself to do and like how to act and be around people like trained myself or like conditioned
Yeah.
myself into acting and like maybe not believing and maybe forming trust issues along the
Right.
way. um and it's just weird because like you don't, I think habits stack on top of each other. I think like if you were to say I have a habit of um like I'm going to make a dumb example. Okay, I have a habit of brushing my teeth. And right after you brush your teeth, if you make like a habit, it just kind of like like that becomes an easy task that
Yeah.
has like no resistance. So it makes it
Mm-hmm.
easy. And then you just kind of form that on top of it when this aspect of like, brushing your teeth becomes subconscious, then you try to start a new habit, maybe flossing.
Yeah.
So I don't know, like it's like I've trained myself that way and I came to terms with that's the way I was conditioned. And then I started forming new habits like not trusting people that stacked on top of that. And so now
Gotcha.
I'm just like, I feel like they're like layers of habits.
So the
and,
habits turned into routines of just
exactly.
Like,
and
yeah.
and it's so hard to break those routines when they're so when you're set and you haven't analyzed like what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, and do I really, is this good for me?
Right.
And with habit, like when you look at it that way, your routine, to break your routine, if you don't think of like, you have to actively think about it, which is why forming habits later in your life is so hard,
Right.
because you have to break
Yeah.
it and then start new. And I will say with behavioral and social habits,
Yeah.
I think they're all subconscious, and I think they're ways your parents raised you, or whoever parent figures in your life, people that whoever influenced you growing up probably helped like start those habits for
Right.
you, and then but I don't know, it's a personal journey, and you could form really good and bad habits. I guess like on the scale, you can form habits, they're not good or bad, and then the key to habits is like you were saying, find that balance of what's good for it and why you have the habit, and then
Yeah.
make sure you're catching yourself when that habit goes against something that's like if you were to say it was bad.
Right.
I don't
Yeah.
know,
Because the good and the bad is subjective. Like, some people think that being honest and being overly honest is a bad habit. Some people like when you beat around the bush with them. It's just you're not telling them the direct truth, even though that's how they are. That they are going to tell you the direct truth because either that's how they were raised, or that's just the point in the road that they say, you know what, I'm never lying again. I'm going to tell people exactly how I think. That form that habit. And so some people, I mean, it's all cultural things, like we've said this before about other topics, that what we deem as right and wrong is different than from what other people deem as right and wrong. And so when we talk good and bad, I think that we're talking about just individual levels of this and what I view bad for myself and what I view good for myself. And I think that's what you're saying as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you can't deem someone's habit as bad for them.
Yeah.
If it's bad for you, because that you can't even relate.
Yeah.
To certain scenarios that those habits. Do you have any like habits that are really bad for you?
Oh, wahoo! Oh yeah, smoking. I mean, trying to quit that. Again,
Amen,
like
brother.
I'm trying to knock off not even the smoking, but just vaping. Like I'm trying my best to get rid of it, and I'm going to new personal challenge for old Jordy here is that going to California. I'm leaving everything at home, not taking anything with me, not buying anything while I'm there for the weekend. And that'll be like the longest I've gone.
Going on a vacation.
Baby. Yeah, like it's just going to be the longest I've gone without it in a hot minute. So that's one thing. Like, I know that's bad for me. It's just, like you were talking about earlier, it's just that oral fixation. I just need to, like, do something. It's like I don't even like it. I don't even like the feeling of it half the time. It's just I like that I have that going on.
I definitely I definitely thought vaping would help. Just like every
it's made it worse.
But it makes it worse. I think it's made my problem worse. And I will say though, it's not that I won't have a cigarette, but if I have a vape, I'm like not smoking cigarettes. I know it's like you're just trading one for the other, and I get that, but at least I'm not doing both. You know, like there's moments when I'm drinking with my friends out at the bars or something, but I know, but I will say, you know, since we have this habit of smoking, Jordan, I'm going to let you know, I had a really rough week when I tried to quit vaping. And
oh no, me too.
Emotionally,
I've had my rough spots when trying to stop before. Like,
oh man, I started thinking really weirdly, like really weird thoughts, and that people I was around, I felt like I had to keep it all hidden because that's just personal anxieties and stuff like that is not something I share with family and extended family. And I don't know, I was just feeling I was feeling super sad at some points. I was feeling like moments of just, I didn't know, like I was in a mood and I didn't want anyone to talk to me, but I wanted to be around people. And I was like, what is going on? And I just had no idea what was, and my mom was even like, hey, are you like okay? And I literally had to tell her, I was like, no, like I quit vaping this week, and it's just taking a toll. And I knew it was from but it took me like a day or two to realize that. Like I started hitting these emotional, like weird mood swings, and I was like, whoa, what is happening? It's like, oh, because I haven't had nicotine in 36 hours.
I felt like,
and it's like, oh,
I felt like I was actually, the last time I tried quitting for real, I went like 3 days without it, and I like was forgetting things. Like I couldn't think of just like I went to like a McDonald's drive-thru or something, and I really wanted a freaking box of chicken nuggets really freaking bad, and I knew that's what I wanted, but I couldn't think of the word while I'm what can I get for you? And I was just like, let me get the at like the number 6, which is the chicken nugget. I can't even think of chicken nuggets. I couldn't think of the word, and I was like, oh my god. And then I broke down. I went home, I got it out of the box that I put it in, and just like, then it all came rushing back. Chicken nuggets. Yep. I was like, that's what I'm eating.
I know, and it's so bad because I came back from like a week of not doing it. Pretty proud. At the end of the week, I was like, hey, I did it.
Yeah.
Like, kudos. I had a moment where I felt this euphoria. I was like, you fucking did it. Like, good for you, man. I know it's only a week. It sounds small, but it's a big win. And yeah, I went home and immediately kind of just fell back into the same routine. And I think, you know, I just recently moved cities, and I just kind of shook up my life, and I had the ability to break habits kind of easily because I wasn't around the same people and environments to kind of facilitate those habits anymore. And I'm kind of trying to start forming new ones. And I was reading a bunch of like kind of dumb stuff on, no, I'm not gonna say dumb,
super dumb.
But remember how it's like the classic cliche stuff. Remember how we were talking about the positivity, like make your bed every morning. It's like stuff like that. And like the most generic thing they say to form a habit takes 2 weeks. And to break a habit takes 6. So it's like, you know, to form new habits, it's like a lot faster than to break them. And it's when I don't know, I like reading just statistics about that. That's just statistically true. And at least from what I was reading. And I just it kind of really made me think, because like maybe I'm unaware of good habits that I need to be forming.
That's a good point.
You know what I mean? Like, like how am I supposed to know if something is good for me or bad for me until after I form the habit, if that makes sense? Because I can say, like, smoking increases my mood, or it does this, and I'm not going to say it's good for me in any means. I know it's not. But emotionally it is, because if I don't have it, I kind of fall apart
Yeah.
sometimes.
Yeah.
And so it's like forming that habit. When I was starting to smoke, I didn't realize that that habit had the consequences it did, and I didn't realize until now. I'm dealing with it, and I'm owning it. Like, it's my I'm owning up to the actions I have, or I've committed. I'm not committed, but I've practiced,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
get it. But it's just weird, because I feel like a lot of people will be like, that's a bad habit or that's a good habit to form, but I don't think you ever really know, because it's such a personal
Right.
journey and a personal
Right.
experience that you really don't know until you try it. And I will say, I know smoking is bad for you, and I knew it was, like, technically it's terrible for your health, so it is a bad habit to form no matter what. I think personally, from my
Yeah.
perspective, I know it is. I will say stuff like that, but something that's in the gray area would be all those behavioral situations, like something like what I was describing is not trusting someone to the fullest extent of what they're
Yeah.
saying. Sometimes that's good for me, sometimes that's bad for me, but what's the spectrum in which is like to say it's a good or bad habit, or
Yeah.
to say that I'm
Yeah.
forming a good habit. So I always struggle with wanting to create better habits. I think there's really easy ones, like brushing your teeth twice a day, making your bed, doing laundry. Things like are actually gonna progress, and help you, like,
Yeah.
things like that. But
No, I
like
totally understand.
when it's like a psychological thing, it's hard to be like, man, that's gonna be good for me.
Yeah.
Like, it's a lot of those gray areas where I don't know. It's so
I think
personal.
it's evidence. So, like, you know, I play drums. For the people around me, that sucks. But for me, it's stress relieving. It gets all this pent up energy that I have out of me. And overall, like, when everyone's gone in my house for the morning and I have like a day off, or, it's just me for a couple hours and I get to go play drums for 45 minutes, my mood that day is so much better because I had that one little outlet.
Mm-hmm.
But whenever I do it while people are home, they're like, "Can you shut up? You're giving me a headache. Like, can you stop that? Can
Mm-hmm.
you hold off for a
Yeah.
while?" And it's like, "Oh, I'm sorry. I just needed this time. Yeah, like I needed this self-therapy." And
Mm-hmm.
I think there are ways that you can fine tune these habits that you're doing. So one way is that I'm like saving up to buy like those silent stroke drum heads and those cymbals with all the holes in them, because they're like
Oh,
80%
nice.
quieter, and you can play them
Yeah.
pretty much anywhere as long as you have the door closed and you can't tell what's happening. So it's like, okay, cool. This is a way for me to do what I like to do and, entertain the habit that I have without causing other people these insane, diatribes with side effects. You know what I mean?
Just Allison's gonna have to learn sign language.
Yeah, for real. Like, so I think as we progress through these habits, we can define, because I don't think there is such a thing as just this is absolutely good for me. Like we're talking about quitting smoking. Immediately, whenever I think of
Mm-hmm.
quitting smoking, I think of the movie Holes with Mr. Sir. You know, he's like, "What's up with all the sunflower seeds?" He's like, "Gave up smoking," and just like, you
Mm-hmm.
know, like eating
Yeah.
sunflower seeds constantly is not good for you. That's way too much salt. Like, that's way too much just nonsense that you're putting into your body.
Mm-hmm.
But it's better than smoking, right? Is it? Who knows? Like, you're giving up, these health risks for higher blood pressure. Like, what's the difference here, really? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. And depending on your blood level, it could be worse for
Bruh,
you.
I'm not even lying. This is the dumbest thing I've ever heard, all right? This is kind of a little tangent.
Lay it on me.
I was serving at this restaurant, and I'm like walking up to a table, or I'm standing next to a table, and they're having this conversation, and I overhear the guy say, "My doctor says my blood pressure is through the roof, and I don't understand why." And then he pulls me aside not 5 seconds later and asks me for like two extra large sides of soy sauce. which is salt water. Like, where did you go?
I'm sorry, I had to turn the light on.
You're fine. But I was like, you know, remember like that 2012 Jackie Chan meme? Like, oh, like that's what I was thinking in my head.
Talking about you said, you'd realize that's a lot of sodium.
Ooh, they got that ramen noodle exhibit.
I'm so glad you knew what I was talking about. That one's from the deep.
Watch
That
out,
one's
Sharon,
deep.
that's a lot of sodium. Oh my god. One of the best.
That's
one of the
so-
best videos.
That's so funny. I will say I don't think yeah, I was trying to think of something to segue off of that. Wow, that was really bad.
Oh, it's all good. It's all good.
Nah, it's all good. They you know, they
Look,
love
not
me. I hope. I wouldn't say that.
not everything has to roll right after another. We're only human, Martin. We're only human.
We're only human.
Good lord.
That's That's the thing with this. Sorry, my eyes are really itchy. Sorry, you're gonna have to do some bad editing on some cuts.
It's gonna be
this.
terrible editing. This is all I'm gonna leave in. I'm gonna cut out all the conversation. It's just gonna be.
And then like me leaving, like
Marty's going. Martin's back.
what it's actually like working with me.
No, I think this is
Oh,
just building upon who we are as people, so our listeners connect more and more with us.
Yeah, that's I saw a picture of a kid sitting next to a picture on the wall with a bunch of people like eating and laughing, and he was sitting there with a bowl of cereal next to the picture and was like laughing. And it said this is what it feels like listening to a podcast. And I feel like because I've gotten the comment of people listening to us in their car or something, and they're like, "Oh, it feels like you're right there. It's crazy. I love it."
What was that? Somebody said that like I paused the video just to speak, or I paused the podcast just to speak my own thought. Like I'm actually like in the conversation with y'all.
I love that. That's one of my favorite things. Like, how are y'all doing today? Boop.
We're
Awesome.
good.
That's funny because we're
gosh.
forming habits on this show, and it's I think to talk
Bring it
about
around,
the
baby.
basic simple habits, like a series. So our opening, we pretty much mess it up once every couple weeks, and we're like, we'll just roll with it. But the more we're gonna do it, the more we say it at the beginning and end of like our spiels, and the more we do this show, that's gonna become a habit, and then it'll just the thing with forming a good habit. When I deem it's good, I think our intro is good. I think it's great. I think it's a great way to introduce everything. So for me, it's a good habit. And I don't know, the goal is for that to happen so organically and so naturally without any resistance at all. And that just it's gonna take 2 weeks for us to do like that's why I just think it's bullshit.
Is that 2 weeks? Because we only do this once a week, so wouldn't that be 14
we
weeks?
got to do like it would technically be 14 weeks of conversation to format.
Let's just call each other every morning. Just be like, "Hey, is Martin over there? He's over there. Okay. All right, bye. See you tomorrow."
All right, see you tomorrow, man. That would be great. Oh man, but that's why I'm saying I think that's not complete bullshit, but maybe it's just I don't know, like forming a habit in 2 weeks seems a little fast, because I think like habits formed over years for me too, because it's like I think our minds and our bodies and the way we think and the way we process information from like 16 years old to 30, it's just the most dramatic sway of like what's good for me, what's bad for me, and you're constantly accepting new ideas and constantly like throwing away old ones, and this just collective group of information that we're all trying to see what's best like works best is just I don't know. It's no one. That's why it's like it's so funny to say no one's perfect. It's like absolutely everyone's trying,
Mm-hmm.
but you're not always going to have like the perfect person is just, it's still I don't it doesn't exist first of all.
Right.
But that perfect person has formed habits, and I think the reason if you saying that's a perfect person is because they're doing everything that they're doing, every habit that they made is helping them gain something, whether it's like actual material or whether it's like emotional stability or if
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
I think that's what I'm striving to make I'll give everything a shot, but I will say like what's actually working, what's actually not working. And like I think it's the evaluation point of all right, making a deliberate decision. I'm going to make this a habit.
Right.
And you whatever that is for me, I'm trying to like what habit would want what what's a new habit I would want to create.
I think that okay. Well, I'll stop you right there. That I think that us trying to actively look for what we deem as a good habit, and like, oh yeah, like I'm, outside of things like healthy eating and going to the gym, like those are generally healthy habits. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I
Mm-hmm.
think it's kind of weird for us, not just you and me, but weird as people that we actively look at. I want to do this very specific thing. I want this to become my daily habit. Good for you, but at the same time, I think that's such a, like you were saying, it's such an inorganic thing that happens. You're actively looking for that to be a part of your personality so you seem more interesting, maybe? I don't know. I don't know why people do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I guess it depends on what habit you're forming. Is it a social habit or is it a personal
That's true
habit?
too.
Because I think like
That's true too.
because if it's
I think if it
personal,
is a social
yeah.
habit, then it seems really just force fed into your
Mm-hmm.
personality type. Like people, we make fun of this all the time too. The Zoe Deschanel personality type of trying to be just dumb, quirky all the time to make yourself seem more interesting and fun. But
Mm-hmm.
maybe that's just an act. You never know. But the
Yeah,
personal habits,
yeah.
I think that's where you have room to pick and choose. Because social, that's, I mean, if you're not like something, oh man, this is making me dig deep about whether or not we're able to actually change who we are socially. Hmm.
I think there's practices because like okay, so like I agree with what you're saying, but I also just because I feel like just because you it's a little bit forced doesn't mean it's not organic.
Okay.
Because and when I say organic, I mean personally. So if I want to start a new habit, I have to purposely and
That's
deliberately make the conscious decision to
that's
say
true.
that, which is why I think you were like, oh, you have to do this. And you have to like you're forcing yourself, and I think it is for a little bit. It's going to be forcing yourself to get over that. You're going to get over that wall
You're
of
not wrong.
resistance,
You're
and then
not
it'll
wrong.
become an easy thing. But I know I feel like I know the direction you were going with the social thing. Is like maybe you are changing, or you want to change something about yourself to be maybe perceived a certain way, or like just to be that type of person for some reason, but you aren't
Mm-hmm.
naturally, and you force yourself to do that. That's a gray area for me because it's like, I'm not a nice person, but I want to be a nicer person. It's going to be hard for you to be a nice
That's true
person.
too.
Or I'm not even saying nice, like polite. I want to be more polite to everyday people. Not saying I'm stone cold. I'm not an asshole in any means,
Steve
but,
Austin, baby.
just like being generally more polite. I think to do something like that, that is better. That I think that's like a better,
Yeah.
subjectively, I think it's something to, uh, help yourself out. But there's gonna be a little bit of resistance to that. I think I'm gonna have to force myself to like actively in a situation be polite and then say and then do whatever I am
Right.
saying. And being polite, I guess that's the thing that a lot of people feel habitual, especially in the South, because you're just always doing it. You feel like you're, but I don't know. That's another gray area because something that's a habit that you've had forever is so easy to you, but like if I'm just now thinking about, oh, I'm not really the politest person, but I want to try to be polite. Like, and
Okay.
I'm
Okay.
26.
So
there's going to be a lot more resistance for me to try to do it, and I'm probably going to mess up. I'm probably going to fail.
Right. So
But I think you can actively change.
let's think about this:
something.
are our habits, is that what makes us up as people, or do we have our natural ways of, like, everybody's different? If everyone had the same habits, would that mean that everyone is the same person? No, we all have our own psyches, we all have our own minds, our own, agendas, quote unquote. So I think, because me saying that, you're forcing yourself to do something, that made me think of myself whenever I was trying to push myself to be more social, right? Like, social anxiety, everybody. What's up? Like, I was trying my best to just, high five strangers and go talk to random people, even though it made me so very uncomfortable. But even though now I'm comfortable with it and I made it a habit, I wouldn't say that that's instinctually who I am. That's just a skill that I've acquired. Skill, habit, maybe not the same definition, obviously, but who I am is a very internal and, for the most part, introverted person. But I've made myself acquire the skill set and practice these habits of being more sociable or being more comfortable in these social situations. But I don't see myself as a sociable, extroverted person. You know what I mean?
Okay. No, I know exactly what you mean. And it's kind of like what that one guy, Hunter on Instagram, I don't want to say that one guy is a really good, cool guy, was saying about we have 1,000 different selves. But there's like one inner person that who we like really like only the person who is standing within this entity knows who it truly is. And I think that's great, because I think we are so quick to label who we are, and thank you so much. We are so quickly to label ourselves who we are immediately, that so you had labeled yourself as, maybe not at the time out loud, but a socially awkward person, and that was uncomfortable in some social situations. And I think because I was talking about this age range, this age ambiguity, we don't really know who we are yet. We don't really know what's good and bad. I don't think anyone in their 20s and early, late teens should label any kind of personality trait that they have. I think I wouldn't say ever still I am a nice person, or I'm a really motivated person. I'm a really driven person. Those things may be true now, but our perspectives and our habits and the things that we form in this age range are gonna fluctuate, and we're gonna rise, we're gonna fall in so many different little and like they could be little habits too. And I'm more thinking like about the psychological habits and the way we process things and internally, not really like habits like making your bed and things that you actually do. But the way we act is like, the reason I say that is because there's been several times in the past, especially in 2020, where I had an opinion on something, and I had a conversation with someone that opened my perspective, and I was able to change it didn't like immediately change, but I understood where that person was coming from, and it really did kind of mold my perspective in a different way. And I think I just think whenever you get new perspectives on things and you get new ideas, and especially if you're preaching, you're an open-minded person, you're supposed to be accepting and like digesting everything that's going your way without any, it's hard to do it without any bias, but I just you just change so much in this time to where
we are ever evolving.
Whenever
people. You're not wrong.
Exactly. And I'm not saying you don't when you're older, but I feel like when I'm 30, like that, I know what's going to be good for me. And I know it's going to be bad for me on the extremes. Maybe in the middle, it's a little weird and I'm still figuring it out. But on the extremes, I think I don't know what's good for me right now. I mean, I have a clue. I think I have a basis. I'm thinking, we're smart, intelligent people, and like we have people to help us figure that stuff out if we really wanted conversations about it. But that on that spectrum, I'm learning the extremes of what's good and bad for me right now. And then as we get older, it just kind of like narrows a little
Yeah.
bit, and then you start changing like
As
little
you knock
things about
things off the
yourself.
list, the smaller and smaller it gets,
Yeah.
and clearer it becomes. Yeah, you're not wrong.
And that's why I think people, whenever they get older, they start thinking about their health a little bit more, or like when they start concerning like other concerns about relationships they have that they may have not thought about in their 20s. Because
Right.
like my parents, within like the past 10 years, I went to college and moved out and got my own place, and I was the youngest one, and they just had a total different like life.
Yeah.
Now they're empty nesters. They just had all these habits that they formed raising kids were now non-existent, or they didn't need to
Yeah.
exist because they weren't raising kids anymore. And so their habits ended up changing, and they got to focus a little bit more about themselves. And so they started eating better, and now they're getting healthier, and friends are that way too. And I think it's just the thing I was getting at that is my parents are like doing little things like that are good for them. Like they kind of already figured out who they were. They were been parents for a while. They're solid people. I will glorify them, but like everyone has their faults, but they are now focusing on like the little things and like the little things that they can change.
Yeah.
And and now I feel like I think you have to reach a certain age just to label yourself, which is why because like one week I'm going to be a nice person. The next week I may not be.
Yeah.
And like, I'm not saying like, I know there's like in a bigger picture when you're thinking about who I am, but my scope can't be that big yet because I don't know. I don't know. I just have to think about, things are going to vary so much in this time of our lives.
You're not wrong. I think of a very oversimplified metaphor for this is that you see a sign for fresh fish. It was fresh 2 weeks ago. It's not fresh anymore, but the label is the same. You know what I mean? And so
I know exactly what you mean.
So yeah,
yes.
Things change. And yeah, you're not wrong. I mean, I get what you're saying, and for the most part, I absolutely agree. There are little things I don't necessarily, or I need to clear up on, but like, as I see myself as this introverted person, I don't think I'm as introverted as I was, but at the base, this is who I was, and there's still evidence of that being shown. To where when I go into a new social situation, yes, I'm more comfortable, because I've built those habits of trying to introduce myself and trying to, be as lighthearted and try to actively listen to people as they come through. But it still takes me a minute to get revved up to try and do that. I have to psych myself up for it. Or when I say I try doing these things, like I always try to listen actively, but then I find myself constantly being bored and zoning out, even though that's a habit that I've formed. Like, my habit is I am listening to what you are saying, but sometimes, and not to you, because I think you're so interesting and you're just so fun to talk to. That's me saving face, everybody. But but when I talk to some people, I think they're so interesting for the first 20 seconds, and then that's all they talk about, and I never want to hear it ever again. You know what I mean? And so to that point, I'm not as open of a communicator as I think I am, even though that's the habit that I'm trying to instill in myself. I still get bored. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I think, I don't know. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No. I love the banter because these are all just ideas that I'm just,
This is what I love about talking to you is that, I'll say this a million different times. I don't have these thoughts talking to most other people. These are new brain words that are coming out of my mouth hole that I've never said out loud or I've never actually internalized before. So to everybody listening, we're dumb, kind of. Like, we don't know what we're talking about because half the time we're discovering it as we're on mic.
It's like we're trying. Like, that's the thing is, I think we're self-aware of just trying. And that's a good habit to have.
It's a good habit
I think
to have.
it's a good habit to form of just getting ideas out and just I know you might sound crazy, you might sound stupid. Sometimes I remember on the Are You Mad episode, I was really self-conscious of releasing that because I read one book and got super excited, and I was so
Woo!
discombobulated from all the
Yeah.
information, and I was trying to relay it after just reading it, and I was like, okay, I didn't have time to digest that. I sound like crazy. It's all over the place. And that's, I don't know. We've been talking about patience, but patience is a habit that I think is one of the hardest things
To form, yeah.
for me personally to form, because practicing patience, you have to be so self-aware of, you have to actively tell yourself, like, no, it's okay. Like, no, everything's okay. For me, like, to be patient, it's not like I'm not waiting around. I don't want to say waiting. Just have to be like, I have to like reassure everything is okay, and like letting it go through its cycle.
Yeah.
And like sometimes I want to rush that process. I have a really this is another really I not say really bad habit, but I think sometimes it definitely doesn't work in my favor, is rushing things, or like wanting, I'm so driven to get things done and over with that I may rush things. Not maybe not like I'm thinking of things that maybe like a job,
Yeah.
or like cleaning my room, or like things that are not necessarily like conversation or anything like that.
Right.
But I have a habit of just like wanting to get it done, and I don't realize how fast I'm trying to go. Like I'm just like, oh, I gotta get this done, I gotta get this done, gotta get this done, and I don't realize how fast. But sometimes, like, that leads for me to like, if I was working on my motorcycle and I'm trying to like do it, and I don't realize how much I'm trying to rush, I like hurt myself,
You'll
or
miss
like
something,
hit myself,
yeah.
or do
Yeah.
something. And it's the hardest one for me to form, because it's the one I have to actively, the most active saying I have to say to myself, or it's like the most like one that I have to say, like actually back away and be like,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
calm down, step out, like, it's okay, just make sure you're rushing right now. That's why you're jittery, that's why you're antsy, that's why you're like kind of anxious for no reason right now. Just stop. And that's the one that I literally have to like back away from. And it's so funny, as like, I think that's a bad habit too. It's like another, it's like what I was talking about, habit snacking. It's like I formed a habit of rushing things, which and then makes me anxious.
Yeah.
So now it's like a trigger for when I rush things. Now I'm an anxious person, and then it's like now I'm forming the habit of being anxious when I'm feeling this
Right.
way, and then that change reacts to something
Exactly.
else.
Exactly.
And it's, yeah, patience with yourself, and patience with things actually that I'm doing are two things that are like habit forming, that is the most, like I have to like I have to look myself in the mirror and be like, hey man, calm down.
Yeah.
It's almost, I know it sounds crazy, but if I don't say it out loud, like I feel like if I was in that situation of fixing my bike, if I didn't say out loud to myself, like, calm down, man, just slow down. I can't just say it in my head. Like, I'm someone who has to, like, when I say I'm going to tell myself, I think I'm one of those people that actually has to say it. Like,
Oh no, I totally
like,
get
I have
you.
to, like,
I talk to myself all
really
the
say it
time
out
and have to
loud.
reassure myself of things.
Yeah.
All the time.
Thank
I think
God.
that's a healthy
Sometimes you feel
habit, is
crazy.
actually, I think people, there's this really bad stigma on like self-assurance and like audibly self-assuring yourself. Like, obviously, don't be in a big group of people. Be like, okay, Jordan, you got this. Yes, we are good. We are going to do this. 'Cause that's just weird, bro. But like, but when I'm by myself, I talk to myself a lot, bro. It
Oh,
helps
yeah.
me talk or think things through. It helps me hear it and understand what's being said in a way that I can't do it internally. So, yeah, it makes me just like, it's a good little, not a hard reset, but just a little, just, okay,
Yeah.
cool. Yeah.
You remember when I thanked
Oh, it was
myself
hilarious.
for like remembering
I
an
thinking
idea? I was like, oh, thank you.
So funny.
You gotta yeah,
Yeah.
that's I think that's a great thing, is self-assurance. Self-reassurance is a good habit. I think I guess, could you make any behavior a habit? I guess it's like kind of a final question I kind of want to ask, because we've been talking a lot. It's like, can you say anything is a habit, or is it like, I don't know the actual like definition of a habit. I feel like it's just like a tendency to, like, you have motor tendencies that are
Yeah.
you do without really thinking
I
about.
guess so.
you
Yeah,
know?
it's something that's just become so trivial. Can anything become a habit? I don't think
Yeah, I think
anything can become a habit. Like, I don't know. I think not everything to one person, because if
Okay.
I
Yeah, yeah,
think
yeah.
different people can have a different range of habit forming activities that they could do, but I don't think that goes to everybody, because we all live such different lives and have such different things that we physically cannot participate in trying to form this habit. Like what's a
Yeah.
good example? Like, I don't have a skateboard, so I can't skateboard every day. You know what I mean? But someone else down the
Mm-hmm.
street can skateboard every day and form that habit. Like,
Gotcha.
there are things that we don't have access to that are the actual habits we are trying to form.
Yeah, I guess the more the question
Maybe we could set
is
ourselves
does
up.
everything have the
I think,
opportunity?
yeah, we
Yeah,
can
it's
set
like
ourselves up for the opportunity of forming a habit out of God knows how many things.
pretty much
God knows how many things. But
anything. Yeah, like
I think here and now, there are certain things that I can't do as a habit unless
yeah,
I actually
as
put myself in that situation.
yeah, and I guess it's like if you had I guess anything if given the opportunity can
Yeah,
become a habit.
yeah. I think
Almost.
that's safe
Okay.
to say. I think that's true. It's
Okay.
just, yeah,
Yeah, and it doesn't matter. Yeah, I'm not thinking good or bad. Objectively, I'm
just
just thinking
anything.
a
Yeah.
habit. Yeah. Okay. That yeah that no, that totally makes sense because I'm really trying to think of like weird things that um you would do physically
I mean, I know this old man.
that wouldn't become a habit, but I guess if you do it every
I know
day,
that
it is a habit. It's
I know
like
this old guy who he rides his bike 20 miles every day, at least. Every day. He's like, "Yeah, I get on the levee, I ride the bike path 10 miles that way, 10 miles back, and then I start my day." Like, that's just a physical habit that he has and has been doing for maybe not every day, but for the better part of his life for, 30
hmm
plus years. Best legs in town, mind you.
I was just thinking it's like holy
Man's
cow, man.
calves can just rip open a hole in the space-time continuum if he flexes too hard. But yeah.
Oh, but
Yeah.
okay, that makes a lot of sense. I think I don't know. Is there any like initial or not initial? Is there anything you just are like, oh, I really want to form that habit, or I really want to break that? Any of the extremes that are going on right now?
Forming habits is I I was talking to Allison right before we started recording, and she pointed out that I really need to find a better way to let go of my emotions that I have,
Mm-hmm.
because, sometimes I do stupid just things that I know are not good because I'm salty about something or I'm petty about something. And that's a habit that I need to break for me.
Okay.
A habit I want to start is I want to start, I want to be able to have a really great conversation easier with more people, instead of just, sorry buddy, I love you, but instead of just relying on you for my hit of good conversation.
Yep.
I want to be able to bring that out of people. I want to figure out how to do that and practice that more and more. But what about you? What
Yeah.
about you?
No, I'm kind of where you kind of hit the nail right on the head with mine's more of a habit on
Mm-hmm.
communicating and just being more vocal that of like things that I and I think this is coming with people that I know, not necessarily people that I just meet. But letting them know that I want to expand my perspectives and horizons, and I want the people closest to me to be open to having
Yeah.
conversations that may also change their perspective. But that's a habit I can form of asking, but it's like I can't go in with the expectation of them wanting to.
Yeah.
Um, but I think I do need to make it a habit of like, you know, being saying like, hey, like, if I do have this thought of like talking about it with someone that I really care about.
Yeah.
And I think it's just like getting in the habit of being, it's more of a, I guess now that I'm saying it, it's more of a habit of being comfortable in that
Yeah.
situation. Because most of the time, if I'm hanging out with like a friend that's I'm just hanging out, we're just catching up, and it's not deep, you know what I mean? It's just like we're catching up on lunch over one day or something like that. I don't want to drop a bomb like we talked about that of, I want to have this conversation, but I think I want to be more comfortable with stepping out and being like, hey man, like I do want to try to talk about this with you and see like if it, if it's, and if you're, I know that takes like that's like part of my inclusivity. Like I want everyone to be involved, and with me, and I also, I want to be more involved with them too. I think it's just more of, it's kind of like you with like with your social anxiety of putting yourself in more opportunities to kind of break that habit, and I think that's what I need to do too. I think I need to be more comfortable and like get in the habit of just I'm not gonna say like forcing these conversations on people, but like you know what I mean. But like being open to trying to having them. Yeah. And that just it's gonna take 2 weeks.
That's all it takes. All it takes.
That's all it takes.
If I fly a plane every day for 2 weeks, yes sir, I'm getting that.
That's gonna be your habit, baby.
That license. Yeah. No, but some things take way longer to do it.
Yeah.
Oh man, but anyways, I think this is a solid spot to sign it off.
Yeah, I think so too, everybody. Thank you guys so much for listening this week. You can follow us at Almost Cool Pod. You can follow me at creation_ of Martin. You can follow that guy over there, Jordan Hooter _.
I had my eyes closed for way
and you
too
can
long.
Oh, and you can also always write into our email at almostcoolpod@gmail.com. Please, we would love to hear from you, what you guys think about the show, comments, questions, concerns. You want us to expand on something, we would love to hear from you. If you guys can leave a little review of our show, whether you liked it or didn't, doesn't matter. We love the feedback anyway. But I guess if we catch up, we'll catch up next week.
Sounds good.
I don't know why I said that so weird at the end. All right, everybody. All right. Yeah, I guess we will do this next week. It's habitual, I guess now. All right.
Thank y'all.